You are the captain of a merchant vessel. A dot appears on the horizon. 10 minutes later it resolves into a pirate sloop. They raise their flags, not one but three in a strange sequence. Red, black with a skull, some symbol you can't make out. Your sailors are panicking. What does it mean? A threat? A barbaric ritual? While you're trying to solve this puzzle, their first volley takes out your mainmast with surgical precision. This wasn't just a cannon shot, it was chain shot. 2 cannonballs linked by a chain. Its sole purpose is to rip sails and splinter wood. This isn't barbarism, it's tactical surgery. It wasn't chaos, it was a language. And you just failed the test. The pirates didn't just act like a crew, they were a swarm, where each member knew their next move without a word. It was a kind of proto-networked warfare. Every ship and every crew member was a node in a decentralized yet lethal network long before the internet. The mystery is how a set of signals, which seemed like meaningless noise to their enemies, became the deadliest weapon of the golden age of piracy. How did pirates create a language that allowed them to operate as a single, ruthless organism, paralyzing their victims with confusion? This language is hundreds of years old. The red flag, which historians call the Jolie Rouge, the possible origin of Jolly Roger, was documented among French privateers as early as 1700. And the boatswain's whistle, it's not just a whistle. It's a multi-toned instrument capable of conveying dozens of commands. Like Morse code, only faster and more intuitive. In this video, we'll decipher this code. You'll learn why the red flag was more terrifying than the black one, which cannon signal meant take the captain alive, and how a single pipe from the boatswain could change the outcome of an entire battle. But we'll start with the most famous symbol of all. The symbol that was, in fact, the pirate's greatest lie. And that lie was that the Jolly Roger isn't a flag. It's a brand. It's a whole category of flags, each carrying the same simple message. We are pirates. You have a choice. Surrender now, and you might save your life and some of your cargo, or fight and face certain death. It wasn't a symbol of death, it was an offer of surrender. According to historian Marcus Rediker, the vast majority of merchant ships surrendered to pirates without a single shot fired. The flag was such an effective tool of psychological pressure that battle itself became unnecessary. It was a business proposition that was incredibly difficult to refuse. But this offer had an expiration date. If the black flag opened negotiations, the blood-red flag, or Jolie Rouge, ended them. It meant no quarter given, no prisoners, no terms. By raising it, pirates were burning bridges not only with the enemy but with themselves. It was a signal to their own crew. We are in this to the end. It's as if in modern negotiations, one side were to publicly smash all their phones and radios. The dialogue is over. Annihilation begins. Now for a quick thought experiment. You're a captain and you see a black flag with a skull on the horizon. What do you feel? Fear, yes, but also hope, a chance to negotiate, to survive. Now imagine that instead, a solid red flag is raised. What changed in your mind in that split second? This instantaneous switch from calculation to absolute terror was the foundation of the entire system. This isn't just a game of imagination, it activates 2 different neural pathways. The black flag appeals to your prefrontal cortex, the center for decision-making and risk assessment. The red flag strikes directly at the amygdala, the most ancient part of the brain, responsible for the fight-or-flight response. Pirates were intuitively hacking the human firmware 200 years before the advent of neuroscience. And they elevated this language to a personal art form. The flag of Bartholomew Black Bart Roberts depicted him standing on 2 skulls labeled ABH and AMH, a Barbadian's head and a Martinican's head. This wasn't just a flag, it was a public act of revenge against the governors of Barbados and Martinique who had tried to capture him. The victim saw not just a threat, but a whole comic strip of what this particular pirate would do to his enemies. Calico Jack's flag with crossed cutlasses, Blackbeard's flag with a skeleton spearing a heart. These were unique trademarks. Upon seeing a flag, you knew who you were dealing with and recalled all the blood-chilling stories about that captain. Reputation sailed ahead of the ship, and the flag was its avatar. The Royal Navy had thick signal books with thousands of codes. Pirates, many of whom were former Navy sailors, took this idea and simplified it to the point of genius. It was a guerrilla language of signals, minimum flags, maximum meaning. Besides threat flags, there was a system for coordinating a fleet, simple colored cloths that looked like mere rags to an outsider. But to pirates, a blue flag could mean return to the flagship, while a checkered one meant attack from both sides. This was encrypted communication in real time. Flags were a powerful but slow tool. They worked at a distance. But what about in the heat of battle, with everything shrouded in gunpowder smoke and decisions needing to be made in fractions of a second? For that, pirates needed a language that could be heard, not seen. The language of thunder. The first shot in a battle was rarely aimed to hit. It was a question. A single shot from a bow chaser might mean, is the enemy faster than us? A return volley from another ship in the pirate fleet was the answer. Yes, aim for the rigging. This was a dialogue the enemy could hear, but not understand. The cannonade wasn't chaotic firing, but a battle rhythm set by the flagship. One shot, begin closing the distance. 2 quick shots from the port side. Focus fire on the masts, but in the roar of battle, when shouting was useless, another instrument took the stage. The bosun's pipe. It's not just a whistle. It's a high-frequency instrument specifically designed to cut through the low-frequency roar of battle and storms. Like ultrasound in a world of chaos. The call to pipe all hands on deck had its own unique melody that a sailor would recognize reflexively. One short trill, hoist the sails, a long fading note, all hands to the guns. It was the ship's nervous system, operating on pure reflex. Pirates didn't ponder the signal. Years of drill in the Navy, and many were former military sailors, drilled these sounds directly into their spinal cords. The pipe wasn't an instruction for the mind, it was a trigger for the body. This is a language of reflex, not logic, and that's why it was lightning fast. Imagine you're a gunner. The deck is thick with smoke, you can't see a thing. You don't know if you're winning or losing, you just wait. Then you hear 2 bells in a specific pipe. You don't need to think. Your body already knows. That's the signal to reload with grape shot. Your job is to flawlessly execute the audible command. And of course, there was the human voice. The famous yo-ho-ho is more of a literary cliché. In reality, a coordinated battle cry, like a threefold huzzah, was an auditory battering ram. According to eyewitness accounts, it demoralized the enemy more than a cannon volley, and a code phrase. Understood only by the crew, like serve them some powder, could be the order to use hand grenades. This complex system of flags, shots, and pipes was brilliant, but its true power lay not in what it communicated to the pirates. Its power was in what it did to the minds of their enemies. This is called cognitive overload, a key principle of warfare. The system reduced the cognitive load on its own side, simple signals, fast reflexes, while simultaneously causing maximum overload for the enemy. A barrage of incomprehensible flags, a dialogue of cannons, piercing whistles, all of it induced analysis paralysis. They weren't attacking the ship, they were attacking the processor in the enemy captain's head. This attack on the processor has a scientific name, analysis paralysis. Hicks' law states that reaction time increases exponentially with the number of choices. Pirates intuitively used this law by overwhelming the enemy's brain with informational junk. The victim's brain saw a chaotic set of signals and desperately tried to find a pattern. While the merchant captain was solving this meaningless puzzle, his brain would enter a stupor. He couldn't make a simple decision because he was overloaded with noise. For the pirates, it wasn't noise. It was a clear plan. And that plan began long before the battle. Edward Teach, or Blackbeard, deliberately wove lit fuses into his beard. This wasn't a whim. It was the best public relations campaign of the 18th century. He won battles without even leaving port. Rumors and his flag, a skeleton spearing a heart, did all the work. The primary ammunition in this war was the story. Think of it like a morale bar in a video game, raising the Jolly Roger, minus 20 morale points for the enemy. A precise chain shot to the mast, another 30 points off. A coordinated crew-wide shout, minus 10. When the bar hit 0, the enemy crew surrendered. Pirates intuitively understood the mechanics of fear and pushed the right buttons. Raising the red flag wasn't just a morale debuff, it was like inflicting a doomed status effect that blocked the very possibility of retreat. A synchronized volley from all cannons was an area of effect fear attack that hit the entire enemy crew at once. Pirates were the first power gamers of naval combat. They used the false flag tactic, approaching their victim under the flag of a friendly nation. Only at point-blank range would they raise their own. That moment of shock and betrayal was a terror multiplier. It doubled the effect of the surprise attack. Every coordinated action created the impression that the victim was being attacked by a far more professional and numerous enemy. What was chaos for the victim was order for the pirate, and this dissonance created an illusion of omnipotence. They seemed not merely human, but a force of nature. But this brilliant system had an engineering vulnerability, a single point of failure. It could be a lookout who missed a signal, a boatswain whose pipe was drowned out by a storm, or simply fog that hid the flagship from the rest of the fleet. It was a system with maximum performance but zero fault tolerance. It was built on absolute trust and flawless signal transmission. And what happened when even one link in that chain broke? The price of a mistake in this language was instant and bloody. Sometimes at sea, an acoustic shadow forms. This is an area where sound simply doesn't travel due to differences in air temperature and humidity. Imagine the horror of a captain giving a command that one of his ships hears, but another does not. The single organism would instantly disintegrate into separate parts, fighting on their own. Thick fog or gunpowder smoke made flags useless. The roar of a storm drowned out pipes and shouts. In these conditions, the pirate internet would go down, and the crew would devolve from a unified organism into a blind, scattered mob. But the most devastating failure occurred when the enemy started listening. The governor of the Bahamas, Woodys Rogers, a former privateer himself, was one of the most successful pirate hunters precisely because he spoke their language. He could predict their maneuvers by the sequence of flags they raised, turning their greatest weapon into a fatal vulnerability. A secret language is powerful only as long as it's secret. Once the code was broken, it became a trap. The enemy could not only predict an attack, but could also send a false signal, sowing chaos in the pirates' own ranks. And of course, there was human error. A pirate ship had no room for, "Oops, I didn't hear that," a tired lookout who mistook a flag, a drunk boatswain who piped the wrong call. There was no margin for error in this system. One wrong sound could send a ship onto the reefs or expose it to a fatal volley. The system's genius was shattered by simple human error. But this code hasn't been lost to the past. Its logic is universal. Here are 3 of its key lessons that still work today. First, create your own flag. In any endeavor, from business to personal relationships, have a simple, instantly readable signal. It should communicate your intentions and force the other side to make a choice, here and now. Second, manage the flow of information. For your own team, you need maximum clarity and simplicity in your signals. For your competitors, create controlled chaos that paralyzes their analysis. And third, your reputation is the first volley. Act in such a way that rumors about you do your work for you before any real negotiations even begin. Ultimately, this whole discussion comes down to a timeless question. What's more important, the hardware or the operating system that runs it? The cannons and cutlasses, or the language and psychology that guided every shot and every strike? So what was the pirates' ultimate weapon? Their ruthless brutality or their brilliant system of secret communication? Write just one word in the comments. Brutality or system. Let's see which one wins.